Hello beautiful people, welcome back to yet another video on the channel. Like always, today also I'm in this beautiful city of Kolkata, which is my home, and I have had this idea for a long time now to make a video about, let's say, 10 things, 9 things or 13 things you need to know before you make any plan to travel to India in order to photograph. I've been a travel agent and a photographer for more than 10 years now, and I hold this experience of curating memories for all the foreigners who come to India. One of the things that I struggled in my initial days of building this business was how to build trust with foreigners, because India is such an overwhelming place. It's not easy for everyone. But for me, being insider here, who knows the culture, who knows everything that is happening around here and in the streets, I couldn't understand why it is so much harder for foreigners to trust me or to trust anybody, or let's say to trust India to travel in the first place. But I started traveling myself few years ago, and I went to all these places and I realized there is a lot of difference, and that's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about few preparatory points that you can do before you make your plan to travel to India, whether with us or with anybody else. So the first thing that I want to tell here while you are packing for your trip to India is not your camera, is not the things that you would put in your camera bags, but it's something that you need to have in your heart and in your mind. That is the openness about India. Come here with a very open heart. Be ready to expect things to happen here, because India is a very random place. Things happen here without any logic. One of the things that I always explain to my customers while they have all these questions, why is this happening? Why is this guy just cutting me into the line? I'm always telling people that if you try to understand India with a logic, good luck with that. When you arrive in India, India can feel a lot. Every sensory organ that you have will be stimulated to its max. So it peaks most of the time. The smell, the sound, visuals, the action that you see, everything is way too much. But what happens if you have someone with you, like your friend or anyone that you can talk to, try to settle yourself down and observe those things. Mostly they become a lot more fun when you just engage with them. One of the major mistakes that you need to avoid is trying to control the scene or the situation in India. You should never try to do it. Let it flow. Let people do whatever they're doing, and your job is to be in the corner and observe it and then photograph it. Generally, India is very generous in order to reward the curiosity that you have as a photographer, and you have been carrying it from your home country. So the second point that I have is India is overwhelming, okay? Accept it. Don't try to fight it, because you can never win it. It's the sheer number of people that we have in this country. 1.5 billion people, most populated country in the world, but area-wise we are 7th, which doesn't make any sense because we have less area but more people. So what happens, the density of people is huge. I'm in this small room, like really small, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of us here. 2 of my team members and 5 of the uncles here who are doing their daily job. So there's always gonna be something happening in India, in every corner. There's gonna be a taxi, there's gonna be some sort of sound, there's gonna be some sort of smell, someone saying something to someone. If you start thinking about those things, what's going on, and you try to observe everything, it generally doesn't work out. But what does work out really well, you being in a place, staying for a long time and just observing the people and then pointing your camera out to photograph. That generally works really well. But as a street photographer, we have this tendency of just going and shooting one photo and leaving. No, just stay there for a bit, see the scene, try to observe, and then what happens, you become a part of that whole ecosystem or the whole environment, and that's when you really win this situation that you are in. So that being said, in my experience, I think in India, patience gives you better photographs than the fast reflexes that you have as a street photographer. Third point is really important, and I would call it respect over content. This might sound really rude, but India is not just another theme park that you have in the world. It's a real place, real people live here, real emotions happen here, real spirituality happens here, and it's much more bigger than our camera, and it's much more important than what we are trying to achieve by taking photos or videos here. What I genuinely believe and what I've been doing from last 10 years is curating the experience for all the foreigners to come here and see the real life. One of the craziest stories that I can tell about this point is when I took my friend Henley from US to Ladakh. We spent around 30 days in that place. We had our driver, and Henley is one of the nicest person on the planet. He treats everyone with utmost respect and love that he has. So what happened, one day we are driving from one place to another place, and the drive is 5 hours or 6 hours long, and in between we just have a random stop. And what we realized is our driver is asking his mother to bring some food for us because we were already exhausted from 3-4 hours of drive, and his house was in between. So auntie, she cooked food and she brought it up for us, and that was like one of the most beautiful experience that we had, just because Henley was super kind and very mindful to the places he was in, to the people he was working with. This experience happened, and it is one of our most favorite experience from that trip. So that being said, sometimes the strongest character of your photo is not the dramatic portrait that you just made, but it's the respect that you've shown. And trust me, in photos, people see that energy. People can feel that energy if it's there or not. One of the biggest mistakes that people would do is they would pack extra gear while traveling to India. At least for street and documentary photography, what I feel is one camera and one lens is enough. All you need to carry is a camera with maybe 35mm and another camera with like either 50 or 85, depending on whatever your choice is. In India, street photography moves really fast, so you don't actually have time to change lenses or to think about gears. One of the best advices I've ever had in my photography career is with a friend who taught me limitations brings creativity a lot more faster than having a lot more option in the gears. I'm a great advocate for one camera and one lens, maybe a sling bag where you can put the water bottle, your wallet and all that, and that's all you probably need. If you are someone who loves to shoot with 35 or 28, just pack that and come here, stay in scenes and just photograph. So that being said, heavy bags don't make you go faster, but a really nice shoe can help you to walk even more, which is super necessary in order to take photos. Always pack a nice walking shoe. If you're coming for cities like Kolkata, Varanasi, Rajasthan, Mumbai and all that, pack really nice trekking or trail shoes. If you're going to the up north in Himalayas like Ladakh, northeast, which is Nagaland and Arunachal Pradesh, in those places you need those. That will change the way you photograph here for sure. So the fifth point is patience. In my experience, I feel like patience is the biggest asset that you need to have while traveling to India. India teaches you patience better than any photography workshop that you have done anywhere in the world. Sometimes in India, we wait for 30 minutes on one street or at one chai shop in order to expect something to happen. But then you realize within 30 seconds, everything just aligns, like the light, backdrop, gesture, action, colors, everything that you see aligns perfectly. What I'm trying to say here is we should not be discouraged if something that we planned for a photo didn't happen in India. One of the dialogues that I have, or one of the sayings that I have on my workshops is, if it doesn't happen in India, most probably it will never happen anywhere else in the world. Most photographers make this mistake of traveling to India in order to hunt for photographs. Instead, what I'm trying to say is we should just stay still and let the scene unfold in front of us. So the sixth point here is learn to make human connections. In India, people are super generous. I know it doesn't feel like that from your mobile screen. I'm not talking about my experience because I live here, so I might be biased, but I'm also talking on behalf of all the people who have traveled with me. I feel in India, you can get into any shop, you can get into any house, you can talk to anybody, and people will just open their whole life in front front of you. People are just incredibly generous. They just don't mind sharing about themselves, sharing their food, sharing their space, their time, every single thing. And you as a photographer can take advantage of these things, because that will help you to unlock the different perspective, that will help you to unlock the emotional depth of your images. So your photography in India changes completely when you stop looking at humans as your subject, but you look at them as a human being or a collective part of your image. Also, just learn few basic Hindi words from the internet, because most of the people in India understand Hindi as it's our main language, although every region has a different local language, but I won't ask you to get into that. Most of the time my clients ask me, what should I say when I have to thank people? And I'm like, just thank you. Everybody understands thank you. Everybody understands hello. A trick that I always use is I always show people camera and then I smile, can I take a photo? I don't say, can I take a photo? I only say photo. If you say, can I take a photo? Then they have to process a whole statement or a whole sentence. But if you just show the camera, a smile, and you just ask for photo, it's like 99% of the time it's a yes. And it's the most epic trick that I have. So what you need to do, show them your camera so that they know that you are a photographer and you want to take a photo, and just say one word, photo, and smile. Most of the time when they smile back at you, it's generally a yes. Seventh, and one of the most confusing points or questions that people have while traveling to India, is the monetary issues while photographing. What I mean to say is, should I give someone money while I'm taking photos, or I should just take a photo and walk? It's an interesting topic, and me being an Indian, I can understand it, but as a foreigner, it's very hard for you guys to understand when is the right time to give money or not. I have a very basic rule about it. What I try to do is, if I take someone's time, let's say more than 2 minutes or more than 1 minute, I try to pay them for sure. I need to give them anything worth of that time for them. If someone's on the street and you're taking a photo of him, a good amount starts from 50 to 100 rupees. That's very generous. That's what I give, and that's what I ask people to give. But let's say you are in a scene when everybody's working, when you are not disturbing anyone, you are just doing your own job, and you are just being reactive to take the photos. I don't give anyone money in that scenario. That's the most basic rule that you can follow. It will help you to direct your thoughts about it. Let's say if I come to this wrestling pit, when I come here or I bring my customers here, we generally spend around 3 hours of photographing these people. We would photograph their workout, we would photograph them doing wrestling, then after wrestling, and they let me photograph the whole space. So what happens is they are giving me access of their place, their culture, their time, and of course I pay them after that, because I really value their time and space and this place. That's how you can try to do things. So anywhere where you feel welcomed or invited, or you are going to be there for some time, just give your money up there. Those people will value it a lot. Generally, it opens up a lot of boundaries for you. It's just nice. I mean, yeah, you should just budget a little bit for tipping and gratuities when you're traveling to India and you're trying to take photos. I know a few people would contradict me if they have been to India for more than 10 or 15 times, but if you're traveling here for the first time, please take this as your one of the top priority to never mess up while you are in India is with water. Next few things that I would avoid if I were you traveling to India for the first time is fresh salad, yogurt, anything that is open and have been sitting on a shop, maybe dessert and all that things, I try to avoid. If you have to experience, try to ask your hotel to make new one for you, and they will probably make one for you, and that will feel really nice. And as we all know that eating is one of the experiences that we want to have during our travels. Street food in India is heavenly, at least for me, because I'm from here, so I can enjoy anything that is being made, anything of any quality. And I'm not talking about the sort of videos that get populated or circulated across internet about the street food in India. No, that's just less than 1%. Indian street food is on a whole next level. The thing that I would have always in my mind is I would try the food which is being prepared in front of me or anything which is deep fried is always going to be nice. Like there's some dishes like puri, kachori, samosas. All these things are always nice, and you can have them as much as you want because they are just coming out of the oil and they are always fresh. Next thing that you can do every single time, which is safe, is chai. Chai is the most loved drink in India. Everybody drinks it. Best part of it is that it's getting prepared every single time, a new batch. You know, it's always served fresh, it's never stored, and it's always hot. But with chai also you need to be a little careful. I would always drink it into a paper cup or the terracotta cups that Indian chai shops have. I would try to avoid the glass cups that are being circulated on the street and served chai in, because of the water that has been used to clean it. Rest, I think everything is okay. As long as you go to nice places and eat, I think you'll be probably fine. The last tip that I have is you need to plan one trip and one photography agenda, whether it's going to be street, whether it's going to be a documentary project, whether it's going to be a landscape or wildlife. You need to have one agenda for that one trip. Generally, what I try to do is I try to plan an expedition for 10 to 12 days max. That for my customers becomes a 2 weeks of holidays, because they need to have 24 hours to travel from wherever they are to Delhi or to any part of the India, and then another 24 hours to go back. So that's 1 day in addition of traveling, second day of addition of traveling at the back, and 12 days of photography expedition. The reason why I'm telling you all about this topic, because India is just incredibly big. Our old folks have explained it very well in Hindi, and I'm going to quote it. Kos kos pe badle pani and char kos pe badle wani. That means around every 3 to 6 kilometers, there's a change in the taste of the water, but after every 12 to 15 kilometers, there's a change in the dialect and the language. That's how diverse India used to be when this thing was said. Now let me explain this even with a modern perspective that I live with. I feel like in India, let's say the taste of the water changes every 50 kilometers. The language changes every 150 kilometers. The food changes every 300 kilometers. Interesting fact is the facial characters, the body structure, the color of people also changes every 500 kilometers. So if you are in Kolkata, people would look a little different than people in Ladakh, than people in southern part of the India, than people in northeastern India. So I think having one agenda for one trip will help you a lot more. Thank you so much guys for watching this one. Like always, me and my team are eternally grateful. We never thought we'll be here, but because of your support, everything is getting possible. I know this video is a little bit different than what I usually make, but this is a part of a series of videos that we are about to produce about travel advisory and consultancy. So keep watching, and there's much more in this series. Until then, take care. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.